For most of human history, humans relied on either man or animal power to do most of the work. Then came along the Industrial Revolution, and poof, all of a sudden we had steam engines, public infrastructure, cars, and the modern age. But this is misguided, considering the Industrial Revolution was a gradual process. While the first phase focused on making textiles easier to produce, the second phase focused on transportation, communication, automation, and mass production. This great leap forward occurred during the last third of the 19th century into the early 20th century. The Second Industrial Revolution was fueled by better steel. Thanks to the Bessemer process, patented by Henry Bessemer in 1856, steel could be inexpensively mass-produced for the first time in human history. This led to massive improvements in infrastructure, huge increases in railroad lines, better engines, and basically everything else. It was stronger than iron, even when pressed into thin plates. As for the actual fuel, coal was the literal main fuel source for the Second Industrial Revolution, as it also had been in the first one. However, during the Second Industrial Revolution, the first oil wells were built, and with it came petroleum, allowing the internal combustion engine and consequently planes, trains, and automobiles to happen, since petroleum is more flexible than coal. The discovery of petroleum, or black gold, also led to the development of plastics, lighting, and synthetic materials. Internal combustion engines were smaller, lighter, and quicker to stop and start compared to the older coal engines, which is good for all of us since our cars would be the size of houses and billow black smoke if we went with coal instead of petroleum. The Solvay process was also developed to more efficiently make one of the most important chemicals of modern manufacturing, sodium carbonate, or Na2CO3, also known as soda ash. Soda ash is used in many manufacturing processes, from glass, paper, soap, to detergent manufacturing. Solvay's discovery of this process led to a massive leap in the availability of the soda ash, a process that previously burned ashes of kelp, or mined from dry lake beds, a process that was expensive and work-intensive. Solvay's process used salt brine and limestone, both inexpensive and easily available resources. This process so greatly impacted the modern world that Solvay process-based chemical plants now account for around 3/4 of the 42 million metric tons produced every year. During this time, large railroad networks were being made. This caused a decrease in the cost of overland shipping, allowing more goods to be shipped, resulting in a positive feedback loop. Better engines also allowed trains to run more efficiently. The Transcontinental Railroad in the U.S. was the largest network of railroads of its time. It allowed transcontinental travel in just 6 days rather than 6 months. Better steel and better engines also led to the replacement of sailboats with steamships, leading to faster and thus cheaper naval transportation, similarly to the development of overland trade during this time period. Though interchangeable parts were pioneered by Eli Whitney during the First Industrial Revolution, they are much more widely and more prominently used during the Second Industrial Revolution with the advent of the internal combustion engine and more complex devices. This is because, unlike parts before, interchangeable parts were made identical to each other, so no custom fitting was needed for each part. This allowed for easier, faster, and more efficient assembly and repair of existing devices, and also decreased the amount of skill required by a person to do such activities. Electrification also occurred with the invention of the light bulb by Joseph Swan in 1879, and improved on by Thomas Edison, allowing homes to be lit AF during the night without the use of candles. The invention of the telephone by Alexander Graham Bell greatly improved communications and superseded the telegraph. Guglielmo Marconi invented wireless telegraphy and a pioneer of the radio. The commercialization of the radio gave people something to entertain themselves with, as well as bettering communications. During the Second Industrial Revolution, a massive economic boom happened. This led to improved living conditions. Agricultural advancements meant that small droughts and crop failures didn't lead to famine. Less people worked in the fields because less people were needed to produce more food. As a result, these laborers moved to cities, causing more urbanization. However, due to increased automation, many people lost their jobs and unemployment went through the roof. Many women turned to prostitution to earn money. The Second Industrial Revolution wasn't only a technological revolution, it also brought a lot of social change. The building of sewer systems and implementation of filtered water regulations decreased deaths from diseases such as cholera. Families separated because places of work shifted from the home to factories. Workers no longer worked on a seasonal basis because factories operated year-round. While living conditions got better, working conditions still remained terrible. People began to marry later because the need to settle and get a stable job came first. Due to the fall in prices of goods, families had extra income to spend on luxury goods. Many people saw the benefits of science and industrialization, leading to increased secularism, materialism, and which is the belief that everything mental, spiritual, or ideal was simply a result of physical forces, and dependence on science. This coincided with the belief in man's superiority of nature. Workers still didn't have many rights when it came to negotiating wages and working conditions, so they formed the workers' unions. Karl Marx and Friedrich Engels used this as a basis of their most famous work, the Communist Manifesto, detailing how history is full of class struggles and how, just how the middle class, aka the bourgeoisie, overthrew the feudal classes during the Middle Ages, the working class, aka the proletariat, during the Industrial Revolution, would overthrow the bourgeoisie and seize the means of production. The proletariat would form a dictatorship, and eventually a classless society would emerge. Though mass working-class organizations were attempted, most notably the First International, an umbrella organization for working-class interests founded in 1864, many were largely unsuccessful, and by the 19th century, socialism was mostly in the hands of national socialist parties. Though Great Britain led the first phase of the Industrial Revolution, Germany led the second phase. This was because, though Germany industrialized later than Great Britain, it allowed Germany to build newer and more efficient factories. Also, Germany had greater natural resources and a bigger population. All this allowed it to industrialize much faster than Great Britain. Rapid industrialization created a need for raw materials and resources. These materials largely came from colonies, making imperialism necessary. Some countries began to fight over colonies and their resources, making imperialism one of the main causes of World War I. So, the Second Industrial Revolution resulted in better transportation, higher quality of life, and faster communication for many people. But it also had a huge impact on international and domestic politics, from the birth of Marxism to partially contributing to the tensions culminating in World War I. The First Industrial Revolution is similar to the Technological Revolution because many new inventions were introduced to optimize the manufacturing of products. It also had similar social effects, including urbanization. And that is the essence of the Second Industrial Revolution. Thank you for watching, and goodbye.